Hello, beautiful people. How are y'all feeling today? I hope you guys are feeling marvelous. Welcome to my channel. My name is Grace and I am a divine feminine relationship coach, tarot reader, and energy healer. Today's video is how to create safety when you are feeling triggered, okay? And I have 7 tips for you guys. So what exactly is a trigger? We've all experienced triggering before, whether we're aware of it or not. A trigger is a trauma response that manifests as an extremely powerful emotional reaction to our current experience. And this usually stems from an open wound or an unhealed trauma that we have not yet processed. A lot of the times when we're feeling triggered, especially in the context of a conflict or a heated conversation with someone, it can feel borderline impossible for us to continue to engage in a manner that is conscious, right? Especially if trigger management and emotional regulation that comes with this territory is something that is unfamiliar and unpracticed to us. And when we don't exactly handle these situations the way that we would wish to, maybe we want to be more conscious in our response and more intentional in how we engage in these moments. And we're not quite there yet, right? And sometimes this can bring about a lot of feelings of shame and guilt. Feeling triggered is unavoidable and it is even normal, guys. So try to remind yourself of this if you do feel guilt and shame over not having been practiced enough in this trigger management. That is okay because I've got some amazing tips for you guys. We all have trauma and our triggers are bringing our awareness to what we have not yet healed. In this way, it is an invitation for us to do some deeper work and some deeper learning. So we can think about triggering kind of like this, right? Imagine you're making a pitcher of lemonade. You've poured in the sugar, you've added in the water, and now all that's left to do is to cut up the lemons and squeeze them into this pitcher, right? So you've cut up the lemons and you're squeezing it into this pitcher, and then suddenly you feel like this burning, stinging pain on one of your fingers, and you're like, oh, fuck, that sucks. And this arises when there is an open cut or an open wound that maybe we've forgotten about, right? We weren't consciously aware that this was something that was still unhealed. Now that you've realized though that you do have this cut on your finger, right? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue squeezing those lemons to make this lemonade with a laissez-faire attitude that, all is gonna be fine, right? Hopefully not. I mean, unless you've got a little bit of a masochistic streak, then that's a discussion for another time. So hopefully before you continue to finish making the lemonade, you slap a band-aid on the cut or you put a glove on depending on your level of discomfort and pain, and then you continue and proceed to finish making the lemonade. Now, ideally, we want to be able to process these triggers and resolve conflicts as they arise, right? When we deal with these issues when they're arising right then and there, we create greater harmony and intimacy within our relationships. Yes, 100%, this is true. And some of us aren't quite there yet, depending on where our core wounds are and the traumas that we've experienced and have not healed yet. Maybe we're not able to show up consistently in this way yet. And that is okay. There comes a point in the conversation or in the conflict, in this trigger management, where it is essential for us to take a pause, right? And this point in time happens when one or both parties that are engaged in this current situation have begun to feel unsafe, and therefore there is this emotional flooding, right? This emotional overwhelm that can often lead to this shutdown in order to self-protect. Now, when we've reached this point of emotional flooding and emotional overwhelm, starting to feel really unsafe, especially when the sympathetic nervous system has been activated, so this is our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response that happens, we are now unable to engage in a truly conscious way, right? That prefrontal cortex has been shut down. We are now operating from our programmed reptilian brain. Now, the reptilian brain is that primitive instinctual response, right? This is the thing that tells you, I'm gonna tear out this person's throat, or I'm gonna run away and hide. And when we are in this primitive part of our brain, right, and all reason has left the building, right, we are no longer in control of our vehicle, we've been hijacked by trauma brain here, and we are deep within our triggers, right, and we often don't even realize what fully is going on within us. So what can we do about this? What can we do to create this container of safety within ourselves and within our relationships? What can we do to emotionally soothe ourselves so that we are back at our emotional baseline, right? We've achieved this emotional homeostasis and we're able to emotionally regulate and self-soothe. I've got 7 tips that I think are amazing for this, and I hope really help you guys out, and I know it's going to help me out as well too. The first tip I have for you guys is to communicate with the person that you are in this conflict with or experiencing this triggered response with that you are feeling unsafe. Communicate with this person and let them know what you are going through. Saying, hey, I feel really triggered right now and I don't feel safe to continue on this conversation. What can we do to address this right now? Because this is more of an immediate concern than whatever the conflict or conversation was previously about, right? The number one priority needs to be creating safety and bringing safety back into the container. So a caveat to this first tip: if you do not feel like this person is able to receive this information, or if they don't have this awareness that, yes, safety is a major thing when we're talking about relational dynamics. If this person's level of understanding and awareness is not able to receive this from you, then maybe you want to make a mental note of this to yourself and take yourself through this entire process, right? If this person is unable to understand this need of yours. So the second tip that I have for you guys today is to create space for yourself to process what's going on for you emotionally. Now, there's 2 options with this tip. If the person that you're engaged with during this conflict, during this triggered response, if they are able to do so, ask them if they are willing to hold space for you to process this together. If, number 1, if they are able to, number 2, if they are willing, and number 3, if you feel safe enough to allow them to do so. Otherwise, you can totally do this for yourself and just let this person know in a loving and kind way, if at all possible, that you need to take some time in order to process this trigger and what is going on for you. The third tip that I have for you guys is to identify the emotions that are coming up for you that are making you feel unsafe. A lot of the times this is coming from shame, this is coming from grief, this is coming from fear, right? Those are the 3 big ones that really trigger this feeling of unsafety. Now, maybe you're experiencing a fear of abandonment or a fear of rejection, or maybe a fear of not being good enough, right? Whatever these feelings are, take a moment to really sit with that and ask yourself, where are these emotions coming from? What is the core wound that is associated with this? Now, if you're having a troubling time identifying where this core wound is, maybe it's something that you haven't really practiced yet, ask yourself what this current triggering moment is reminding you of from your past that still feels a little bit painful to think about. What traumatic experience does it remind you of, particularly from childhood, something that's likely to have flown under the radar and been unresolved for you thus far? The 4th tip that I have for you guys is to breathe deeply into the belly, right? Just take a moment to mindfully breathe. You can choose to send your breath straight into the belly, placing your hands on the belly maybe to feel it expanding and contracting. The point of this is to mindfully be aware within our bodies, to really come into our body's current emotional experience. So as you're breathing deeply, maybe you're sending this breath, if you're more practiced in breath work, to areas of tension that you feel in your body. Allow yourself to become really aware of what emotions you're feeling within your body and where you are feeling them. So I know for me, fear tends to be felt like in this belly area. Maybe it's different for you, right? So allow yourself to really become familiar with where these emotions are being expressed in your body, and allow yourself to sit with it, to really experience it. Allow yourself to cry if you need to cry. Be really present with your body's current experience. So as we are continuing to breathe mindfully, what we're doing is that we are having our bodies go through this emotional reset. As we breathe deeply and mindfully, what we're doing is we're allowing the body's emotional, physiological response to become soothed as we come back to our emotional baseline. When we are really upset, right, especially when we're feeling unsafe, this activation of the nervous system has happened. And when we're emotionally activated, everything we're doing comes from this subconscious mind, right? These are our programmed reactions, right? We're not responding in a conscious manner anymore at all. We are no longer the drivers of the vehicle, basically. So what the breathing is doing is it is calling us back into the present moment. We are being mindfully present of what is happening within our vessel. And in drawing our awareness to the breath, we are allowing the body to begin its natural process of self-soothing. The fifth tip that I have for you guys today is to affirm to yourself that everything you are experiencing is completely valid and understandable given that you have gone through what you've gone through. So this is also what I call the reparenting process, like really speaking to your inner child, right? And if you're not practicing this, this is okay. I do have an inner child healing meditation that I will be linking somewhere up here. For those of us who are not practiced in inner child work, what we can do is to imagine that you are having a conversation with two different parts of yourself, right? So you're talking to yourself as this loving, nurturing parental figure. And the part of you that's scared, that's feeling hurt and angry and whatever else you are feeling unsafe, that part of you is expressing its concerns. That part of you is being soothed and reassured by your parenting self. So something your parenting self might say to this part of you that is really upset right now is, hey, look, I know that this is really hard right now. And I know that you're feeling a lot of different emotions right now. And I just want to remind you that it's all okay. It is okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. And this is only coming up for you right now because you are strong enough to heal this now. That is why it is coming into your awareness. I know you're feeling so unsafe right now because this current situation is reminding you of this specific past situation, and that is not happening right now. You are safe, you are loved, you are heard, you are accepted, you are held. Now, when we are in this conversation with ourselves, right, I want you to listen deeply to whatever this wounded part of you has to say. A lot of the times we come at these parts of ourselves that are really hurting and that really need our own love and attention. We come at them with like this judgmental, authoritarian, no, you're bad, you shouldn't be doing this kind of voice. I know sometimes my own internal voice will tell me, hey, it's really illogical that you're being like this right now. Why are you being like this? I thought we were over this. What's going on? Why haven't you done the work? Why haven't you done enough work, right? And who does that help? It helps no one. So why are we doing it? If we wouldn't talk to our dearest friend or a small child that way, why on earth are we talking to ourselves that way, right? When we have this conversation with the part of us that is wounded, what is needed is for us to be compassionate, for us to be understanding, for us to be accepting of whatever our emotional experience is, and to cultivate and nourish that healthy relationship with ourselves. Because let's face it, guys, that's the longest relationship you're ever gonna have. So you may as well make it an awesome one. Continue on this conversation until you feel this feeling of completion, right? Maybe you've told this part of yourself that was hurt whatever it was that they needed to hear. You know, you can even do a visualization exercise where you ask them what they need and give them whatever it is that they need in that moment. Maybe they needed this in the past and never got it, and now you have the opportunity in the present to give that to yourself. The sixth tip that I have for you today is to do something that makes you feel really, really safe in your current physical space. This can be a lot of different things, right? For me, I know it is wrapping myself in a blanket and getting super cozy and snuggly, right? I just feel so safe and secure. Maybe for you, this is something like going for a walk, making yourself a cup of tea, drawing yourself a nice bath, listening to some soothing music, asking for a hug. Whatever this looks like for you, make sure that you dedicate a specific chunk of time to this safety exercise and allow yourself to be mindfully engaged in whatever it is that you're doing. So using the example of making a cup of tea, right? When I say mindfully engage, I mean engage as much of the five senses as you possibly can, right? So being really present with this cup of tea, holding it in your hands, noticing how this cup feels, noticing what it tastes like as you drink it, really be engaged with what it smells like. Maybe you see the tea leaves floating in there or the tea bag, just noticing what that looks like, seeing the steam kind of just rise up from this cup, right? Just being fully immersed in the experience. This also allows us to come out of the state of unsafety, which is in our past mind, right? In this reptilian brain, and coming back into a place of consciousness and mindful engagement with our current present surroundings. The seventh and final tip I have for you guys is once you have completed this process and you've created an environment in which you feel nourished and safe and secure, and you've allowed yourself to come back to your emotional baseline and you feel more soothed, more centered, more able to continue on the conversation at hand, let the person you're involved with during this conflict or during this triggering experience, let them know what it is that they can do to support you when you are feeling this way. Maybe this looks like setting a boundary around needing space, right? Maybe you're someone who has been through a lot of trauma revolving around relationships, and you are unable to process these things externally with someone else. So maybe you need to create a boundary of like, hey, when I need my space, this doesn't mean that I'm leaving. This doesn't mean that I don't care about the situation. I just need space so I can be okay for me first. And then I can continue to engage in whatever it is that we were engaged in. Or maybe what you find helpful is having this person offer you affirming and reassuring statements, validating your current emotional experience, telling you, hey, I get it, like everyone has triggers, it's okay. What can I do to help? Let this person know your requests and what kind of statements would make you feel most nourished and what would be most supportive of you. Or maybe if you're engaged in a conscious relationship, whether that's a partnership, a friendship, a familial relationship, you can ask this person to, when they are noticing you becoming triggered or when you are noticing yourself becoming triggered and vice versa, right? You can have an open invitation to practice some breath work together. This can be a really perfect bonding experience, especially if both people are kind of having abandonment wounds, right? And you don't really want to leave each other's physical presence. Maybe having an invitation to do some breath work together could be really beneficial for both of you. Or maybe for you, this looks like allowing someone to make you that cup of tea, to bring you that blanket, to draw you that bath. If we don't ask for the support that we need, we're not gonna get it, right? Our chances of getting the kind of support that we need, because let's face it, support feels different and looks different for everyone, the more we are likely to receive what it is that we truly need. And of course, once you guys have resolved all the triggering and are beginning to feel more safe in yourself and in the container of the relationship that you are engaged in, then you can continue on to resolve the conflict in a much more conscious, hopefully, manner. Thanks for watching my video. I hope this was helpful to you. If this resonated with you, don't hesitate to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and click that bell so you guys can be notified every time I post a new video. If you're someone who finds it challenging to feel safe in the face of triggering, in the face of conflict, let me know in the comment section below what has been helpful for you to become more safe in processing these conflicts and triggers. Have a beautiful rest of your day.